Good evening. My name is Michelle Joyner, and I am the secondary math instructor here at NMSBVI. And I am joined with my counterpart, Andrea Jules.
I am Andrea Jewell. I am the elementary instructor here at NMSBVI.
Well, thank you for joining tonight. We are to talk about the math curriculums, the two math curriculums that we are interested in purchasing for our students here next year. And I'd like to open up my PowerPoint presentation and share this with you. And I hope that you are able to see my PowerPoint presentation. And welcome, and we will get started. Oops. Wow. So Andrea, if you wouldn't mind reading.
All right, so on this screen, you can see that we have our mission and our vision on here as in our mathematics department. And so I won't read the whole thing off to you, but it is our goal for our students to become confident, competent problem solvers, and that eventually they will gain confidence in their ability to learn and apply mathematical knowledge in situations, both independently and cooperatively. And so as a collaborative, cohesive team, we will provide students with a supportive learning environment which allows them to feel safe and encourages them to realize and to achieve their potential as learners and as productive, contributing members of the community. So we'll provide the students with that by addressing district and state content standards. We'll be making sure that any curriculum that we choose is aligned within the school, both horizontally and vertically, that it addresses the needs and learning styles of our students, that it utilizes problems with multiple entry points for differentiated learning. We want to make sure that it's very accessible to all of our students wherever they are at. We want to provide the technology to them that they can use within the learning experience. We want to make sure that it allows for application of mathematical content knowledge, and we absolutely want to make sure that these students are prepared for post-secondary education and careers.
So NMSBVI certainly has a unique population of students. Students with visual impairments tend to face more challenges than their peers without disabilities, even when learning the most basic mathematical concepts. These difficulties include problem solving, gaining access to problem information, representing problems, problem information, calculating the answer. In addition, mathematics is highly visible in nature and often uses graphs to convey important information. So this presents additional obstacles for the students here at NMSBVI. So some things to keep in mind when we're delivering mathematical instruction to the visually impaired. Certainly we want to select a math curriculum or program based on its content and how that content aligns to state and district standards and practices. We want to keep in mind that there are other tools that our students are going to be using to help support this curriculum, whether they use an abacus or a talking calculator or using computer programming. They also need to be aware of the codes that are involved. New Mexico is a Unified English Braille and NMSBVI state. So there's two codes going on there that need to be considered. Certainly, there's going to be a wealth of tactile materials or math manipulatives that students will be utilizing, being able to read a variety of devices from anything from a 12-inch ruler to a teaspoon. Certainly, it takes our students, some of our students need additional time to process and learn the concepts. We want to make sure that we are presenting them with as much real-world application. We want to build their vocabulary, and we also need to address specific student IEP goals that may be surrounding math or technology. Our goal was or is to select a math curriculum that would provide students who are blind and visually impaired with the best math content that is accessible, reflects diversity and relevancy. So New Mexico is a Common Core standards for mathematics. That's what they implemented. And that also extends to the mathematical practices. Both the content and the practices concentrate on presenting math in a clear set of skills and concepts that don't just present that information in a horizontal format, which we mean through the grade, but also through a vertical format. So it does address the K through 12 as well as the individual grade level. And there is a big focus in Common Core to help build students' problem solving abilities. So in 2019, the New Mexico State went through numerous publishers, and each publisher may have had different curriculums, stemming K to all the way 12. And myself and Ms. Jewell narrowed it down to 3 publishers. And some of the help that we got from the adoption list was looking at recommendation scores. And in their reviewing process, they had a group of people who reviewed all of these curriculums and then set a recommendation score. And this slide lists the 3 publishers. We identified Big Ideas Learning, K through 5, and actually the Big Ideas Learning all the way up from K to 12th grade. They have a K through 12 curriculum. The counterpart to the Big Ideas K through 5 is Pearson's Envision. And then the counterpart for the Big Ideas 6 through 12 is McGraw-Hill in their Reveal curriculum. We have, like I said, the scores are listed. If the score was 89.5% or higher, then the state recommends that. If there's a score that's less than that, it's recommended with reservations. So we kind of summarized some of the big highlights about these 3 companies. And they all provide comparable curriculums that for Envision, there is a K through 12 curriculum. And you can get it in print, you can get it digitally. And a lot nowadays with the use of technology, we're looking at, they have lots of ways to blend those 2 things together and make a well-rounded, meaningful curriculum for the students. I'd say all of these publishers, the 3 books that were, the 3 publishers that we're looking at, they all have a a way to entice, to get the students engaged. They all support our English language learners, as well as lots of differentiated instruction and assessments that the students can take, do self-assessments on, as well as providing the students with summative assessments and the data analysis software to do that. Big ideas, again, very similar. I would say with big ideas, they can really stand alone in terms of whether you get a print or you go through digital. All of the big ideas math curriculum supports the Spanish learner. Everything that's in print for the student is available in Spanish. They even have the teachers edition in Spanish. A lot of scaffolding instruction. Again, extra support, data analysis software, embedded differentiation in there. Interesting enough, they have math manipulative and literature kits as well with big ideas. For McGraw-Hill, which was the reveal mathematics, we looked at the grades 6 to 12. They now have a K to 5, but that is not available right now for us. They do a great job. They have a great blended curriculum using the print and digital, though the print could stand alone without the digital component. Again, getting a hook to entice the students to start thinking about math, and then running through or having the student go through exploring that what they call a launch, and then practicing it, and then assessing it. And they have individual and group and class activities. Great building of language, a lot of ELL support. Again, in this case, the Spanish resources, most of them are all, anything that's in print for the student is also available in Spanish. Very, very similar curriculums. The next 3 slides kind of just highlight some things that are a little bit different for the K through 5. I don't have presented here, we don't have presented each of those 6 grade levels, but we have a sample for the 4th grade. And Miss Jewel, if you wouldn't mind kind of maybe hitting some of those highlights there.
Okay. All right, and so on this slide, you can see this is the K through 5, the kindergarten through 5th grade. We specifically looked at the 4th grade samples for both the big ideas and the Envision. So the big ideas is in print and digital, whereas the Envision is print, digital, or blended. When it comes to the Braille format, some of them are available for Envision, it looks like, but we may or may not be able, we should be able to at least get it transcribed for all of them. The accessibility, the big ideas, one of the differences is that the big ideas has graphic organizers and vocabulary building. They both have screen readers that depend on whatever the format of the material is, whether it's a PDF or if it's an image. However, it can be changed to something that will be readable by a screen reader. The Envision, the lessons are very easily designed and easy to follow. It also does have the vocabulary building on there as well. It is pretty simplified when it comes to the text. So visually, it is not very overwhelming. Actually, they're both not very overwhelming visually. So that's one of the reasons why those two were on the top of my list. For the Big Ideas math, it has warm up, it has dig in, they explore, they think, they apply, and they practice it. There's the think and model approach. And we'd be getting a student workbook with that, with 2 different sets of practice in the student workbooks. The Big Idea also does come with a manipulative and literatures kit, and it has math musicals, which can tend to be pretty fun for our elementary students. With the Envision, they do a lot of problem-based or visual learning to assess and differentiate. Now, one of the things that is nice about the Envision is that it does the 3-act, which came up also on one of the other slides, engaging with 3-act or math projects. So like the opening of each lesson would have like they could either do an engaging 3-act, or they would be given a selection of a different project that they could work on to open up the lesson. With the Envision, they also have additional workbooks. The Math Excel is the digital portion of the Envision. They have the formative and summative assessments. And then you can also generate your own tests. They have self-assessments. They do have manipulative kits as well. And they also do the cross-curricular where they will do the STEM, they provide some STEM activities as well. Both curriculums are support ELL, they're cultural sensitive, and they also provide the differentiated instruction. Let's see, they are both standards, aligned with the standards with Common Core standards, which is what New Mexico does follow. Once again, they have the 3-tiered differentiation. Let's see, I think that's probably about it for those. Like Ms. Joyner had mentioned, they're both, a lot of the curriculums are very, very similar with very minimal differences. So, so that is the 4th grade that we looked at for those 2 Big Ideas and Envision mathematics. Thank you.
So just to kind of narrow down, again, there was a huge, there was a lot of textbooks, and of course the state providing us with those recommended percentages kind of helped us kind of narrow on a few things. But to help kind of separate those other curriculums from these was, what is the format that's available to us, whether how much of these textbooks are available in Braille. And I think the most biggest piece is the accessibility for our students, where you have to think about, for students that do have some vision, we need to consider how overwhelming is it visually and how simplified the text is laid out. Does it follow a certain format? But some books, they've got information on one side of a page, and then on the same page some other information. And so just looking at the layout of the material is important. Is there a lot of color involved in the pictures? Things, some of our kids may not be able to distinguish color. So how important is that color to understanding the information that's being presented? And so that's something else that we were looking at. Spacing between problems, graphic organizers. That's a way to help maybe with our differentiated instruction and our ELL students. And certainly if our students had to access the information digitally, how well is a screen reader like JAWS or NVDA being able to read not just the text, but also the mathematical content, like an equation. And so we needed to consider that. All these curriculums have plenty of assessments and practices. They even have little tutorials that students can go and get additional practice. Depending on what grade level it is, there may be additional digital math tools like Desmos, which is an online graphing calculator that is known to be used by students with visual impairment. There are like a web sketch pad. Again, that may be more useful to one of our students that have a visual, but it's nice to know that there's some other features here that our students could access as well. Certainly, these curriculums also, they meet the Common Core math standards and the scope and sequence for the grade levels. One thing to consider is whether, there is a balance between procedural skills, conceptual understanding, and then being able to apply and maintain some rigor. I mean, we expect our students to perform as best as they can and challenge them. And so we want to get them to that application and challenge themselves. And so it's nice to see a nice balance of that. And that was something under the math content. Are we seeing that? Is it balanced throughout the book, or is it a little rough? And another thing is, we get kids from all over the state. And in addition to, is the curriculum supporting ELF? How culturally sensitive is it? And how are genders and ethnicity and places around the world represented in these textbooks? And I do have to say that in 2019, when textbooks were first being reviewed, that was an added component to address that. And a lot of textbooks do it at a very superficial layer where it's, I'll just change the names and maybe have some different pictures of different ethnicities. But to get in there and see that there's like multicultural teacher tips, and that's something that the Reveal math course has in the teacher's edition, they'll have some multicultural teacher tips. And so this, I think I kind of hit what we were doing in these 3 slides, was specifically trying to address some of these things that we feel are important for our students. And so on this slide, it's the 7th grade, and I think I kind of addressed some of these things that we were looking for. And the things that are highlighted kind of just pinpoint some things that are a little bit different about the 2. In the next slide, it's again, the high school we looked at the Algebra 1, Geometry 2, and the Algebra 2. This slide happens to have kind of a more in-depth look at the Algebra 2, addressing those column categories that I mentioned. Again, very comparable. The Reveal, I really like the spacing between problems, a minimalist approach to the graphs, and not a lot of extraneous pictures, which are can be overwhelming for our students that do have some vision. It also makes it difficult for the screen readers to read when you got a whole bunch of graphs, or it's a little overboard, or there's extraneous pictures that really might take away or make it difficult for our screen readers to read. One thing that's really nice about the Reveal curriculum is they do have an embedded screen reader, which is pretty easy to teach our students how to navigate and use. And so it's definitely a lot better than NVDA and JAWS from that standpoint. A lot of information here in these three samples, but you know, there are other factors and things to consider. Again, you know, version availability, and of course we need an ingredient with NMSBVI. And again, the complexity of the math content is, you know, there's lots of graphs, maybe a different kind of format in pages and things like that. Of course, the number of pages can increase the production time as well as the cost. But I think there's alternative ways that we can get this information or the content to our students using, you know, some of the digital access stuff that is available with some of these curriculums. And I also put in that, you know, it's something to also consider. What are some of the other schools in New Mexico using? Because some of our kids may just come here for a year and then they go back to their home school. And if we have kind of an idea what other schools are using, you know, if there's a wealth of the other districts utilizing a curriculum, that might also be helpful to our students. But these four things are just things to consider. I think that we address the here and now and who we have, and you know, we set out to pick the best curriculum that we could for our students. So then I know that was a lot to take in, and if you have a question where you'd like something on the slide to be clarified a little bit more, or specific questions that myself or Ms. Jules hasn't answered, we'd love to hear from you. And so, you know what, I think the best thing, yeah, we'd like to hear from you, and I hope we can hear you. Questions?
I have a question.
I can't see who's patenting. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Jeff Kilber, the science teacher. How long do you anticipate these curriculums being here, being used at the school? I know that oftentimes in public schools, there's a lot of curriculum changing from year to year, every couple of years. Is that something you see happening here, or is this going to be more of a long-term curriculum for the students here?
That's a really good question, because I think the state, goes through an adoption process for each subject area, like every 5 years. And so, you know, I had already mentioned that the Reveal curriculum now includes the K through 5. At the time that it was first reviewed, there was only 6 through K. I think, and I can say this from having viewed pretty extensively the 6 through 12, that I think these curriculums, you know, math doesn't really change. I think a lot of it is the presentation and how modern or how up to date the examples and you know, what's the trend going on during that time. And so I do think that, you know, the curriculum that we're looking at, we could use for several years, and I know that's hopefully, you know, I would be interested when the next math adoption comes up, that I would be able to participate in reviewing the materials. So I think it's kind of, for me to say, oh, we're only going to use these 3 years. I don't know. I guess, again, things are changing. And as I think I was thinking this, or I heard somebody say, you know, the advances that our technology is going through, and having better screen readers, and just maybe being able for our students to be able to access things better on digitally may mean that we might need a curriculum that reflects that. So I hope I answered your question. I know I didn't give you an exact answer, but I think there's things that need to be considered.
Hi, Dave Dillingham with the Space Museum. What's the time frame on adopting whichever set of curricula you choose, starting in fall this year?
We would like to start, and I'm sorry, Andrea, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, if whatever we decide to do, we would like to start using that curriculum in the fall of 2022. So that would be the plan, yes.
So is there a curriculum that you are recommending that this is the one you want to go with, or is there still more evaluation you need to do yet?
I am at the point where I have decided. I think that we have done. Well, again, we narrowed it down to actually two for K through 5. We have 2 for the 6 through 12. I've narrowed it down to 2 curriculums: the Big Ideas or the Reveal Math. And I am, it was a tough call, but there are just a few little features, especially like the embedded screen reader for our print readers that might need magnification and things. I think the Reveal has a little bit more to offer to our students.
And as for elementary, the same thing. I narrowed it down to the Big Idea and the Envision. But I think that when it comes down to it, between those 2 curriculums, I'm leaning more towards the Envision for very similar reasons. I feel like it would, with the blended format, with print and digital and the blended format, I think it would be able to offer more to our students out of the 2. So,
And I'll speak for Andrea here on this, or mention, because I have, I think that having that print and digital, and knowing that you can blend them to make it a more richer, but at the K through 5 level, a lot of our students are not that technology savvy, and so it's nice to know that the Envision will stand alone in its print form if necessary. So I think that's an important thing.
yes, thank you.
And that's true about the Big Ideas. You don't really see so much of a blended curriculum with the Big Ideas. Yeah, you get some bells and whistles and neat ways to pull the kids in, and with what's going on in the world around us today. But I see that the digital aspect of the curriculum is not as, that it wouldn't be so much that our students, our K through 5 students, would be accessing. They would probably be getting some kind of support.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't have any more. Thank you for your time and presentation and for your thoughtfulness.
Thank you.
Yeah, my main question would be, whatever you select, if there's some sort of outsider's guide, if you will, that we could use at the museum, so we can take the curriculum from existing activities and adapt them so that the kids get some math value out of whatever they do with us, and then keep that in mind as we develop new ones.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, when you say, and I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So are you saying that if the curriculum that we adopt to make maybe it available in terms of the activities and that it might be something that you might be able to provide some additional support?
Yes, or yes, because we're trying to align our activities with next generation science standards. We also need to start injecting more math into it, which frankly at times can be a bit awkward for me because math is the reason I became a writer instead of an engineer, but you got to do it. In fact, I'm tutoring my grandson right now in Algebra 1 in high school. So I'm relearning stuff. It's kind of fun. We want to provide a firmer footing for the math stuff, for the kids in the math that's involved in space exploration, because really it applies everywhere. And we want to make sure that what we do would complement what you're providing and also be accessible to them. It doesn't matter how neat the equations or the equation explanations are, if we present it in a format that they can't comprehend.
And you know what? If I may throw this out here, I don't know that it's necessarily that you. I think that there's the math there, but if we had an idea of what you were doing when you say that you've got activities and I think you run a summer program and stuff, right? That if you already have a curriculum that you implement, that maybe that's where myself and Miss Jewel can kind of jump in and look and see where we can help build that math component.
Great. Yeah, because you're so you obviously already not only know far more than we will, but far more than we ever can. And you and the kids are ultimately the customer. We want to, and that's my dog's in the background. I want to make sure that we do it the right way.
Right, and so I certainly offer my services to meet with you and look at what all you do, and that could be something that helps supplement what we do in the classroom as well.
Yeah.
And let the kids know that, hey, this is going on up at the college, and maybe, this is field trip time where we can go and visit you guys and have a team, a collaborative project or an activity.
Right. Right. In fact, collaborative projects, teamwork is an increasingly important part of what we're doing, because the days of the lone genius basement inventor are long over. The problems are far more complex. And part of what we do is we're going to start mixing up the teams. You might self-select one group day one. Day two, we're going to shift things around because you don't always get to choose who's at the next desk.
Yes, yes. Well, certainly. Well, I'm looking forward to doing something like that, and it's certainly something that we would need to start now and not in the fall of 2022.
Yes, we start in the fall, we're already behind the curve.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And Jeff has been great to work with on various projects, and we just want to find ways that we can do more.
Well, and I can tell you, Mr. Killebrew is always excited to tell me when his science students are doing math stuff and they're writing, they're differentiating equations and stuff to model projectile motion and stuff like that. So I'm always excited that they are getting the math in their science class too. That cannot avoid it. So it's have someone outside or someone within our community that's interested in doing that.
Great.
Questions?
I can't turn mine on, but my question, are we ready?
I believe that I am ready to make a decision. I think that's one of the questions that Mr. Killebrew had asked us was about what curriculum we'd like to go through. And I hope I did a good job of saying I wanted to go with the reveal.
And for the elementary, I would like to recommend the Envision Mathematics.
So I certainly want, I know Ms. Jewel and I really appreciate having the opportunity and to invite you guys to be a part of helping us or thinking of questions that maybe we haven't thought about when we were looking at our all these math curriculums and stuff. And like it says, we need you to also help build the future for our kiddos, and we certainly appreciate the questions and your attendance.
Okay, appreciate the invite.
Let's see if I can stop sharing my screen. So now I get to see some of the faces that I couldn't see. I'm Michelle Joyner, by the way. I don't think you were on when we did introductions, Mr. Doolin.
Yeah, just wound up being a few minutes late. Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem. Glad to have you. Oh. Dan? Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, those are all the salesman samples that you all got sent.
Yes, it's actually just the ones that we narrowed down to. We have
Okay.
a bookshelf that has other curriculums that we looked at, but these are the ones that we presented to them.
Okay, it'll be a fun challenge.
Math is always a challenge, no matter who, where, or when you are doing it.
And actually, the challenge starts after today.
Yes.
Once you have it chosen, then you
Let's get it in the kids' hands.
Braille
Mhm.
and getting the Braille transcription taken care and having them on time.
Yes, you are correct. That's your job. All right. Well, thank you again. Have a great evening.
Excellent presentation. Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you, Miss Beverly.
Bye.
Bye.